Hi, this is KCC. Welcome back to another series of KCC's weekly updates. Today I'm going to talk about gig and wealth, and it's all about how to create wealth as a gig worker. As you know, this is an area that's been growing tremendously worldwide, not just in any particular country. A lot of young people are moving into becoming a gig worker. So what I'm going to be talking about today is the gig economy in itself and the worker. We're going to talk about what's the difference between contingent worker, freelancer, gig worker, and we're going to look into things like types of gig, why people go into gig, what are the challenges involved in gig work, and then of course what are the critical success factors for gig workers. And then I will end by talking about wealth creation in GIG work. All right? Very good. So, what is classified as a gig worker? A gig worker are basically independents, contractors, and freelancers who typically will be doing short-term work for many different clients. Well, the work can be project-based, it can be hourly-based, it can be part-time, and can also be an ongoing contract, or can even be a temporary position. But the whole idea is it's not a long-term employment. And this is the area which is growing for many people today in any economy, irrespective of countries. Now, so the gig economy has been thriving. In a report that's published by World Bank, in one country, which is my country, 26% of Malaysia workforce are gig workers. 26%, that's almost a quarter of it. And that amounts to 4 million people working in gig, insofar as one country is concerned. And I'm sure the statistics in other countries are no less different. Now, the gig economy in my country has grown from 2017 by 31% annual growth. Wow, that's a lot, And there are many categories of gig worker, but in terms of ride-hailing alone, there's 160,000 ride-hailing drivers in just my country. So I just take a look at the economy in one country, and I'm sure this is the same for any other country that's evolved. This is a growing area. All right? Now, so however, some people are still very confused. What exactly is a gig worker? Well, in many cases, a gig worker is more a broader term. It really refers to any independent workers, and generally they're not hired as employees. Work is normally temporary or non-permanent, and people does jobs, either short-term, long-term contract, but they are not employed. Now, there's another category called contingent worker. Contingent worker is employed by a company, usually a staffing agency, and then they place them into a company where they work there, and the staffing company will probably do all the work, find a job for them, do all the billing, do all the various methods, and then they place the person into a company for contingent work, which can be very short-term or longer term, depending on the situation and the job involved. Now, freelancers are independent contractors. Freelancers, typically, you are your own manager, you're responsible for getting the job and billing the client and so forth. So freelancer is another way of categorizing within the context of gig worker. And freelancers are essentially, freelancers are essentially your own account. You are basically self-employed in a sense. But nevertheless, you have a big picture of what this is all about. People are not fully employed, either working through a platform where they get work, either working for an organization which finds work for them, or they themselves go out there and look for work. All right? Now, in my country, the top 15 gig work is selling rental property, ride-hailing, ride-sharing is another one, fitness training and coaching, very popular, freelance work, consulting, office work it can be outsourced out to people to do. Very big area is e-commerce and drop shipping. Tutoring and teaching is another area, and also selling items online, reselling items online. Another one is babysitting, caretaking. I'm also with caretaking now, especially for the elderly, which is getting popular. Another area is computer repair. Of course, been around for decades is direct sales, of course. House cleaning and repairs, and things like landscaping, gardening, probably last year. And of course, those musicians and dance performance, and that's where the word gig comes from anyway. And photography, videography, and finally survey taking. And these are some common examples of gig work as surveyed by Monster.com. In my country, the top 7 gig work is online tutoring, ride-hailing, as we mentioned, part-time freelance services, companion caring for elderly or babysitting for youngs, task assistance, virtual assistants, and pet sitting. So these are 7 common gig work in Malaysia. These are the source that we have found, and these are the information that is from jobstore.com. All right. Now, so why gig? Why people want to be in gigs? Well, 2 major areas. Number 1 is the freedom. All right. Freedom for what? Freedom to choose what you want to do. Freedom to decide when you have given an assignment whether you want to take it or you don't want to take it. You may have the freedom to even reject work that you think you do not want to do. You have the freedom to decide you want to go sick on that day, or you want to retire from work for the next 3 weeks or so forth. So the complete freedom is something that a lot of the new generation would want to value that, and therefore lots of people are going to gig because of that privilege of being able to have the freedom to choose and to decide. Yeah. The other one is flexibility. Flexibility in the sense of where you want to work, of what kind of work you want to do, who you want to work for, and when you want to start, and when do you want to stop work if you want to. The flexibility. Yeah? And how much work do you want to do? Do you want to be very selective and only do certain chosen areas, or you are quite willing to take a lot more? And how hard you want to work is another area that you can decide for yourself. And that's the flexibility you have as a gig worker. All right, very good. Now here are some statistics that may be of interest to you. This is a top reason why people work in the gig economy. A huge 48% says autonomy and control, which is freedom to choose and flexibility. 55% basically want to make money on the side. That means they have a full-time job, but a gig work is something they do from the side. For some people, 22% is the only way to make an income. All right. And also 48% basically wants to have something that they have more control over their time, so they can balance the career and family needs, and they do not want a fixed job where they have little control. And 19% earning while waiting for a better job. In other words, they're waiting for a job, but in the meantime, they just go and do some gig work. So these are the top reasons for working in the gig economy. And depending on the situation you're in, whether you're doing freelance work or platform-enabled work or formal work, of course, is traditional, where you have little or no flexibility, but you have financial security and the working conditions are generally taken care of, and also they will probably be professional and career development. While in platform, whether you are a driver for a ride-hailing company or you are a delivery person for an organization which deliver food, flexibility can be high, but the other factors are somewhat lacking. If you are in the freelance area where you really go out there and get things on your own and there's no platform to support you, you'll find that although flexibility is high, the other 3 areas, financial security, working condition, and professional career development should be low, or even to the point of none. All right? Well, there's always pros and cons in anything you decide. Now, in my country, Malaysia, these are the common earnings of people in this economy. So here's some information on the net monthly gig income for my country. 60% actually earn less than 1,000 a week. Probably these are people with full-time job, and gig is just an additional income for them. And as many as 30% is between 1,000 ringgit to 1,999, which is approximately, well, $250 US to about, $400 over US dollar. And 7% earn 2,000 to 2,999, and only 3% earn above 3,000 a week, which is pretty hefty for this country. Yeah? Most people don't even make that kind of money in a month. Well, some do. I mean, those in the city, but in the rural areas, most people don't make more than 3,000 in a week. But here in the gig economy, you get some people making that kind of money, right? Hi, this is KCC, and thank you for coming to the session. And there are lots and lots of valuable information that I'm providing here. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel right now below. Press the button, and you will constantly be given all this very important information that has great impact on you. So what are the challenges of being a gig worker? Number one is financial security. In other words, you may get some work now and you have no idea whether you're going to get work continuously. So it's something that you need to be concerned about, the continuity of having an income. Well, the job is a job because you're going to get a salary whether you go to work, you don't go to work. But in a gig worker case, if you don't get the work, you don't get the money. Working conditions can be quite challenging because you're on your own and you have to fend for yourself. And even if you are sent as a contractual worker for temporary work, likely the working conditions are not going to be the same as a full-time person. And you're not going to get as much benefits, and especially health benefits, medical benefits, or any other benefits that a normal full-time employee will get. But as a gig worker, freelancer, or side hustler, you probably don't get any of this. And of course, the other point is the future is question mark. You wouldn't know, or you may wonder about that, and it's not really written on the wall. And obviously, career development is another issue. That's within your own hands, and nobody is going to care about that except for your own self. So these are the 5 areas of challenges that you, if you're going to gig, will have to consider, and you have to look at how you're going to take care of these areas, all right? So in this next section, I'm going to talk about the 8 success factors for you to do well as a gig worker. The first one is to really know for yourself, what do you really want out of doing gig work? And why you're doing it, what's the objective, what's the purpose? Now, different people does this for different reasons. As mentioned earlier, some are in between jobs, some are doing this as additional income aside from their full-time income. Some people do this purely because they don't want to be tied down anywhere. So you have to make clear your own reason why you choose to take up gig work, all right? So the other success factor is to think longer than temporary. So in other words, when you get some gig work, do not just think the length of the work, but how can that work that you are working on can provide you with benefits longer than just temporary? How do you go further than that? How can you turn that into maybe possibly a full business for yourself? Let's say if you are a gig worker doing design work and you're doing it on per job basis, temporarily, but could that potentially at a later stage be turned into a full-fledged business of providing design for corporate in a larger scale and in a more structured way, all right? And not temporarily, all right? The next thing to think about is to treat it like a business instead of a job. These are really mindset issue. If you're going to be a gig worker, you are neither in a job or fully in a business. You're kind of in between. And I would suggest to you is to treat your gig job as a business. Because once you think it along that way, your whole mindset and your attitude towards what you're doing will be different. And you don't think of it as a job that you have to work hard in order to get the money, which all of us need to work hard, of course. But as a business, you'll think of smarter ways how to ensure that continuous flow of income. All right? The other point that I want to share with you is start somewhere. I mean, don't delay and work and worry too much about it. You want to get a perfect situation, then you do it. It's learning along the way. So start somewhere. You can start off as doing it part-time while you have a main job. And as you begin to do more of it, you kind of enjoy, you like it, then you may quit your job and go fully doing gig work, all right? So, but start somewhere and don't guess too much. Just dirty your hands and get down to it and experience it and make adjustments as you go along and learn a lot as you go along, which is very important. But as you go out there and do your gig work, think of building your own community, your own connections. If possible, start creating a customer base, because the smart thing to do is not just to think of doing a job for one person one time and only one time. but to have the person be part of your community, that he is a satisfied customer, he may not only come back to you for giving you more work, but could be recommending to other people to come to you. So this community of customers and these connections that you build can be something valuable down the road, and you need to consider that. All right. And the other point to ensure that you are taken care of in this journey to become a successful gig worker is to prepare for any circumstances. More than anyone else, if you have a job, it's different, and the company has to look after you at least for a while if anything should happen from an economic standpoint, or if anything happens to a particular industry. But as a gig worker, you lose this the moment things go south and economic situation is not good, or the company that engages people like yourself may not want to continue because of the inability to support the financials. So you got to prepare yourself for any circumstance that might happen. Next thing is manage your money. That's very important. Well, unlike a job, you get paid every month. You don't worry too much. You know that you're going to get paid at the end of the month, assuming that you work for a proper company. But in gig, you never know when the next check will be. So you need to manage your money much more better than a person in a job, especially when it comes to putting money aside for, who knows, a rainy month or rainy day, right? But in the meantime, one of the very important success factors is to enjoy as much as you can doing those kind of work we're doing for people. And the moment you don't treat it like something that you enjoy, you treat it as a job, you treat it as something that is pressurizing and stressful, then you're not going to enjoy it. I suggest you think otherwise. So here are the 8 success factors when you go into a gig job and gig work, and which will help you grow this area and make it more fruitful for yourself, rather than to just think of it as something that you just play around with and there's no consequence from it. So meanwhile, a couple of things we want to suggest you do. Work on acquiring self-discipline, which is so important for gig worker. You don't have that self-discipline, and if you're not a person that has that kind of quality, you may want to reconsider, because you have no boss. You are your own boss, and if you can't manage yourself, then you better not want to do this. Yeah. The other one is maintaining connections, meaning while you are doing this gig work, you could continuously build connections. You got to build a network of supporters, people who will support you, people who will like what you do and recommend or make other people come to you and use your service. Yeah. Setting up separate time and space to work away from relaxation. So some gig workers prefer to actually go and rent a working space, in a co-working space, than work from home. Because some people at home don't have the discipline and they cannot separate relaxation and time for their hobbies versus time and space to do their work. So you may want to separate that if you feel that's necessary for you to ensure that you have more productive outcome. Yeah? And finally, focus on your ultimate purpose. Go back to your original reason why you're doing this, and put energy into making sure that outcome or that purpose is realized. Right? Some people might say, well, I didn't really want to do gig, it just so happened. But when you do that, you must find some purpose in it. You don't do things just because it's there, or just because it's convenient, or just because you have no choice. At the end of the day, you must construct it to contribute to your future. And that's where you determine what your purpose might be. So finally, on the issue of wealth and gig, what I'm going to do is pose certain questions which probably make you think. And in doing so, will enable you to plan out for your financial future. Number 1 is, if you are now in the gig work, the question is, how long will you last if you don't have a gig work tomorrow? No gig work. Stop. How long can you last? Well, if the number doesn't come out very well, so it's very obvious that you need to prepare for something like that to happen when you don't get any more work starting from tomorrow. And you want to be able to say forever, which means that you have put aside investment or money that will take care of you even if you stop doing the gig work. The other one is, are you totally dependent on one income? So if you are doing a gig job and it's only one income, Does it make sense for you to depend only on that particular 1 gig? Should you not explore other possibilities in the meantime? Because trying to survive on 1 income is like staying in a house with only 1 pillar. That's very dangerous. That pillar might collapse and the whole house will collapse. Are your income active income, meaning you only make the money when you work? Is any portion of that income is recurring? That means it comes to you whether you do anything or don't do anything, it comes back to you. Or it's passive, meaning that you don't do anything, the money just comes because of something you've done earlier, like investment income, of course, rental income from property. So what kind of income comes from your gig right now? Is it possible to have passive and recurring income out of the gig? How many percent of your income do you put aside every month? If you don't know, that means you don't. Recommended, you should put aside 20% of your income every month so that you can take care of yourself on a rainy day, right? And in doing all this job, all this work, all this gig, are you learning? Are you increasing your own personal value? Are you increasing your skills? Are you increasing your ability to do things? If it's not, and you're not learning anything, then your value has not increased, and therefore you're just working to make the money as it is, but not for future benefit and future possibilities. And have you acquired any asset, whether intangible or otherwise? So as you do the gig work, would there be other intangible assets like relationship with customers is an intangible asset. Data is another asset. So are there any other assets that you're acquiring as you do the gig work? All right. Well, thank you. That ends my session on Gig and Wealth, and I'm sure you get some benefits from here, especially the last part where I asked you some very uncomfortable questions. And you need to go through those questions to ensure that you prepare yourself for a better financial future. Thank you very much for coming to KC Weekly Updates, and there are more to come. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, and we're going to have some fun. Thank you.